at more than double digits.
So are you considering like a sliding scale in this contract? So 5 years down the road, the people aren't stuck with this 15% that you set up?
It's a 3-year contract, so it lasts no longer than that period of time. I mean, beyond that, you know, I want to just touch on in general the kinds of things that we've put forward to help the unions put together counter proposals to get over double digits, but I'm not going to address, you know, has a specific line or, you know, been agreed on, or are folks interested or not in that. We're not trying to negotiate through the media here. I just want to give you a sense of what we've shared and what the target is, and you've heard that target from me, you know, ever since we started this conversation. You heard that same target from Acting Mayor Mike Brown more than a year ago. So this 15% has been on the table for more than a year, and during that period of time, our public safety unions have refused any shared sacrifice.
Have you had conversations with neighboring communities about mutual aid, especially with changes in firefighting?
Yeah, there was, and the reports that I read were accurate. There were surrounding fire chiefs had presented a letter to the city expressing concern about mutual aid, and the concern they raised was a valid one, that before the city calls on mutual aid, according to the agreement, it should be utilizing its own off-duty personnel and reserve equipment, and we're looking at ways that we can do that. And that's not a change in the terms of that mutual aid. It's a fact of a new emphasis given the concerns with the reductions. So we think we can address those concerns and come into full compliance with that mutual aid agreement. We still will have the largest and the best firefighting force in the county. So it's to everyone's benefit that we maintain that mutual aid relationship.
So just to be clear, you're not going to release the numbers of the ones left, ones still standing. You're not going to tell us what's left in fire and what's left in the police?
Oh, you're talking about the total numbers?
Right. Of who's working. Who will be working tomorrow?
I mean, those are well-known public just total force numbers.
He's wanting specific numbers as to who's going to be working tomorrow.
We're not going to go hour by hour.
We don't do that.
No, what's left on the force? 1,000 people, 500 people, 10 people?
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead. You want to go ahead and take that.
After the layoff tomorrow, we'll have 145, 146 officers.
And fire? Do you know that?
We'll have 60.
More than 60.
Yeah, it'd be more than 60, like 64.
My other question was, a couple of weeks ago, you had the presser on the grant where you were going to get 2 patrol officers per ward, correct?
Right.
Which a total of 18 officers.
Foot patrol officer, one
I was
first
under
shift,
the
one second
impression
shift.
they were working together, but I just heard you say you're going to have them in one in the second shift, one.
Yeah, that's how it was always.
Oh, okay,
if that was
How safe is that? Just to have one officer patrolling the 5th ward?
right for the community patrols that they'll be undertaking, the relationship building, addressing loitering. You know, it's an appropriate patrol technique. Yeah, and right, and a number of our current patrols, I mean, are one officer. There are some patrols that are 2 officers, so we use both techniques.
You know, and then another thing.
Yeah, go ahead.
You know, we need to understand that, you know, it's a lot of fear has been perpetuated. And, you know, at one time we had over 300 officers here. And during that time, I was one of the officers that got shot. So the number of officers, it can still happen. So don't let anyone, you know, plant this fear that because of the number of officers that we have. The job is inherently dangerous. We know that. You know, and I understand that, you know, a least amount of officers, yes. You know, but it can happen regardless of the number of officers that we have. So, you know, we need to understand that I'm cognizant of that fact, and I wouldn't send any officer out there if I thought that something was going to happen to them. We need to be clear about that, okay?
Now, the officer that patrols downtown, he's retiring April 2nd. His name escapes me. He rides the Segway.
Officer McClellan.
Will you be replacing him, or is that just...
You know, like the mayor said, we will still continue to do the things that we're doing now. And so those things will still continue.
Chief, could you talk about something real quick? Because we had a chance to talk to folks from the union. How they describe it is gonna become something like your officers, if you can give a response. Like the Wild West, people that are lock their doors, have their guns, you know, officers are in danger. The whole concept that with fewer police officers on the street, it's gonna create some sort of situation, not only from the officers, their lives in danger, but also, obviously, people who live in the city.
I'm gonna reiterate, we had 300 officers at one time, over 300 officers. During that time, I got shot. So the danger is there. The job is inherently dangerous. So, you know, let's not perpetuate this fear, you know, that, you know, some officer is going to get hurt. We had over 300 officers got hurt. I mean, that can happen. So, you know, let's not, you know, generate more fear than there needs to be.
Well,
So,
something to the people, like the people who called the mayor's office when I was here sitting in the lobby a few hours ago, you know, asking, you know, why are you cutting police officers? People are personally afraid for their own safety.
guess what? My parents live in this community. Do you think I would put my parents in danger? I'm not, you know, this is not something that I want to see happen either. But you see, part of that responsibility belongs with the officers also. We've been doing this since last February. So, you know, don't put it all here. You know, they have some responsibility in this situation. So, you know, but while they're perpetuating this fear, you know, there's some responsibility that goes along with that. You know, and believe me, I don't want either one of those officers to be gone anywhere. I want every single one of them to be at work tomorrow, the next day, and the day after that.
Mayor,
Every single one of them.
can we just ask, in terms of some of the, tying this into some of the economic development efforts downtown, businesses looking to come through,
Sure.
when you look just at obviously the perception of less officers, how does that hamper, or does that hamper economic development efforts and job creation?
Right. The fiscal responsibility has to be demonstrated by this city hall. Elected administrations for the last 10 years have run up deficits on this community's taxpayers. There is no business or investor who wants to invest in a place where control of that community is in question because of an outside emergency manager having to be installed to address a deficit, for you know, a variety of changes to have to take place out of financial distress. So my goal is to create a stable, sustainable set of city services that this community can afford in the 21st century at the rate that this community can afford. And we can't do it the same way we did 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 25 years ago. So outside businesses, investors are looking first and foremost for responsibility out of City Hall. Now, as we achieve that, then you ask an appropriate question. It's the same one that residents ask me. You know, Mayor, my #1 priority is public safety. What are you doing on public safety? And let's just go back to the numbers here for a minute, because public safety is this administration's top priority. The general fund in fiscal year 10 is, before any of these changes took place, layoffs or adjustments, was estimated by outside auditors to run a $6 million deficit. Okay? Police and fire budgets are 60% of that general fund budget. Out of a $5 million cost-saving package that I've put together so far, $1.5 million of that